Final update. My sister ran off with my husband, leaving me to care for her dying son. 15 years later, they laughed, asking about him, until they saw him walk in, strong and confident. Then they screamed. I felt a strange sense of satisfaction in keeping calm. They weren't going to get a reaction from me. Well, Mary continued, Matt may have been a failed experiment, but our daughter is perfectly healthy. That word, daughter, caught my attention. I turned to Todd. You have a daughter? She just turned 14, he replied proudly. She's the cutest thing ever. But Mary's face had changed. Her earlier confidence was gone. I sensed there was more to this story. So, you got pregnant after you left, huh? I asked, watching Mary's expression harden further. She looked uncomfortable, and Todd quickly jumped in. Of course, she's mine. She was born a year after we started living together. Mary flinched at his words, her nervous expression betraying her. Something wasn't adding up. I kept my distance as Todd stepped closer, trying to assert his confidence. Well, that's questionable, Todd, I said. Mary was meeting all kinds of people while leaving Matt with me. Todd's expression shifted from a smile to shock as the truth began to sink in. I continued, recalling what I'd learned when I hired a detective to investigate them after they ran off. Mary had been seeing other men, not just on weekends but even during the week, while I took care of Matt. She'd been going out, having fun, and letting others pay for her expenses, all while pretending to be a devoted mother. No way, Todd muttered, his face pale. We spent weekends together. How could she have had time to meet other men during the weekdays? Todd, while you were at work, she was out enjoying herself, I explained. Todd looked at Mary, stunned. You told me you were exhausted from working for Matt's sake. Mary stayed silent, avoiding his gaze. Todd's voice grew more strained. Then why did you marry me? Was I just convenient? Mary didn't answer, clearly hoping the conversation would end. Let me guess, I added calmly. Todd was the most financially stable out of all the men, wasn't he? Mary's eyes widened in panic, and she shouted, Stop it. Todd stared at her, anger and disbelief written all over his face. Is that true? Was I just your ATM? Mary's face turned red with embarrassment, and she didn't respond. I even have recordings, I said, of conversations with your friends where you called Todd your ATM. Mary froze, realizing the depth of her secrets that I had uncovered. Todd looked devastated, his voice trembling. So, our daughter might not even be mine? That's ridiculous. Mary grabbed Todd's arm, desperate to convince him. She's yours, Todd. Todd didn't look convinced, and I stayed calm. You can easily find out with a DNA test, I suggested. Mary's face went pale, her confidence crumbling. No, there's no need for that. She's Todd's daughter, she insisted. But it didn't matter to me. Mary's protests were meaningless, and Todd's trust in her was shattered. I was here for one reason, to stand up for Matt after how cruelly they had treated him. Whatever you two decide to do is your business, I said firmly. But remember, I raised Matt with love and care, and that will never change. Mary and Todd looked defeated as I turned to leave. Just then, I heard Matt's voice behind me. Mom, are you ready to go? I turned and smiled. Oh, I'm sorry to keep you waiting, Matt. It's okay. Let's go, he said, walking over to me. Mary and Todd stared at him in disbelief, struggling to recognize the competent young man standing before them. Wait, is that Matt? Mary asked, her voice trembling as she pointed at him. Matt stood tall in a sharp suit, healthy and strong, nothing like the frail child Mary had abandoned. Yes, this is Matt, I said proudly. He's 20 now and thriving. Matt's calm, steady voice followed mine. I remember everything, even though I was young. I know who you two are, my biological mother and her lover. Todd looked horrified as he tried to process Matt's composed but cutting words. But weren't you supposed to be really sick? I thought you only had 6 months to live, Todd stammered. No, I interjected. Matt was never sick. That 6-month story was something Mary made up after she left. I took Matt to the hospital, where the doctors diagnosed him with malnutrition, not any life-threatening illness. All he needed was proper food and care. Mary's face turned bright red with embarrassment. I tried, but he was such a picky eater, she muttered weakly. Todd's expression twisted with disgust. Matt eats well now, I said. He's healthy, strong, and even played sports in high school. Matt added, and I'm studying to become a doctor so no other kids have to go through what I did. Mary and Todd gasped, shocked by how far Matt had come. I had no idea, Todd mumbled. And there's no need for Mary to insult him anymore or call him names, I said, shooting Mary a pointed look. Mary glanced away, ashamed. If she had raised Matt, he never would have reached this point. She opened her mouth to speak, but Todd cut her off. I want a divorce, he said bluntly. Mary's eyes widened in panic. What? No, you can't be serious, she cried, clinging to his arm. But Todd's expression stayed firm. After learning how you neglected Matt and lied to me, I can't stay with you. Mary's voice grew frantic. It's all a misunderstanding. Gemma twisted the truth. But Todd shook his head. You treated me like an ATM, and now I see the truth. Mary tried to deny it, but Todd was done. I'm finished, he said coldly. He turned to me, his face filled with regret. Gemma, I can never make up for what I've done, but I'm truly sorry. He bowed his head in apology. I felt nothing. The anger and betrayal I once harbored had long since faded, replaced by the love and joy of raising Matt. I've moved on, Todd. Matt and I have our own lives now, I said firmly. With that, I turned back to Matt. Let's go, Matt. Yeah, let's go, he replied as we started to walk away. Mary's voice called out, trembling. Matt, I'm so sorry. I regret leaving you all this time, she said, tears in her eyes as she stepped closer. Matt turned to her but held up his hand to stop her. Don't, he said, his voice steady. I remember all the times you pushed me out of the house when strange men came over. Mary's face turned pale. Matt continued, his tone unwavering, and I remember the day you abandoned me. I decided then that I'd never forgive you. He looked her straight in the eyes. You're calling her mom? Mary asked desperately. Yes, Matt replied. Gemma raised me. She's my real mother. Mary stood frozen, realizing there was no chance of reconciliation. Don't ever try to see us again, Matt said firmly. Mary collapsed in tears as Matt and I walked away together. Later, I heard that Todd had a DNA test done and found out the daughter wasn't his. He sued Mary for damages, filed for divorce, and left her for good. Mary tried to retaliate by spreading rumors about him, but it only backfired, leaving her with nothing. I eventually blocked all her messages and cut ties completely. Matt, meanwhile, thrived. He grew into a wonderful man, got engaged to his girlfriend, and made me so proud. We continued living together, cherishing our time as mother and son. On his 20th birthday, I took him out to a nice restaurant to celebrate. Let's make a toast to adulthood, I said, raising my glass. Cheers, Matt replied, clinking his glass with mine. In that moment, I felt truly happy, knowing I'd made the right choices for Matt. This right here was everything I had ever wanted.